You're watching WECT News at 6.
The 1-2 punch of Hurricanes Bertha and Fran devastated the southeastern North Carolina coastline 25 years ago. Fran still ranks as one of the worst storms to ever make landfall here. $5 billion worth of damage, 14 deaths, thousands of homes damaged or just washed away. As the 100-plus mile-per-hour winds lashed the coast, 2 young women decided to ride out the storm in their oceanfront house in Surf City. But the conditions kept a young police sergeant from immediately answering their call for help. September 5th, 1996, Cat 3 Hurricane Fran bears down on southeastern North Carolina. Mandatory evacuation orders are issued for coastal towns. No one on or off. On duty that night in Surf City is a young police sergeant, Ron Shanahan.
So the chief at the time was David Jones. We were actually manning a checkpoint at the swing bridge. Roughly as dark came in, we heard a big roar and turned around and seen the swing bridge just igniting a big blue flame. At that point, we realized that we needed to go hunker down.
Not everyone had evacuated ahead of the storm. With Fran making landfall in Brunswick County, Shanahan and his chief heard a call come in for help. With the storm reaching its worst, bringing 100-plus mile-per-hour winds and a 12-foot storm surge, officers that are used to responding had to stay put. Sergeant Shanahan that night, say an extra prayer or two?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So especially when we heard a phone call come in. We were at that firehouse of 2 young ladies that decided to stay here at the beach, and they needed immediate assistance. The chief at the time had told me to get some rest and we'll get out there first in the morning to see if we can locate these 2 young ladies. Absolutely no sleep that night. So you're pacing, you're thinking, you're praying, and hopefully these young ladies would be okay.
Daylight on Friday morning unveiled a devastation Ron Shanahan had never seen in person. He and his chief set out to see if the 2 women survived. The damage so bad, they had to walk about 2 miles through the storm's debris to get there.
We were on and off the beach at times. It was impassable on the roadways. There was so much debris, nails, vehicles, houses along this whole roadway, this whole strip here. We walked the beach for a good portion of it. We came across the side over here where that call had came out the night prior.
Right.
And that's when we started obviously blowing whistles and yelling, Surf City Police Department.
Along the way, Shanahan stopped to take this picture. The house on the left, where the 2 women lived, ripped from its foundation and split in half by the storm surge.
We've seen these young ladies come out of this residence across the street, up on the porch, and say, hey, we're over here. They got in that house and they apparently hunkered down throughout the nighttime in the bathtub.
The look in their eyes told everything?
Exactly. The look in their eyes, they were just stone-faced. They couldn't believe what they just went through, looking at their residence that they were living in across the street that was basically plunged in the ocean, that was cut in half.
Shanahan and his chief got the 2 women to safety. They survived a major hurricane that claimed 14 other lives in North Carolina. Chief Ron Shanahan has now been through a dozen hurricanes and repeats the same message every year.
I ask people just to adhere to the warning. If we say get out, please batten down and get out and leave.
Now, I reached out several times trying to interview the 2 women who spent that night in Surf City. One woman, who lives now in Charlotte, did not want to go on camera. The other woman, who lives in Texas, I could not get in touch with her. The house they got inside to ride out the storm is still standing. The lot where their house stood before being moved by the storm surge is now empty.